Sorry about that. Now I have to start again. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer down multiple images using this one at the same time. So in case we want to do more than one or two or three or whatever, and I'm going to do this with two images. One, I'm going to do this with the Einstein to give you the premise, and then let you guys try this at home. And then the other thing we're going to do is I'll do it with a frog. Probably I'll do three in there. So you have to press really hard to do that. But right now, the way you do this is just you basically lay in your graphite paper the way you normally would underneath here, and you want to make sure it covers both, gets enough so you know you're actually making it top and bottom. Of course, this one here, you lay in your graphite paper. You don't tape it down. You just lay it in, because once you start working, your graphite paper is not going to move. Okay? So we're just going to go ahead and start. Now, how hard do I have to press? Well, I have to find an area and just use a certain pressure. Okay? Did I make it? I don't know. Yes, I did, because there's this one, here's this one. So if I come in here and I'm wearing my glasses, so I can actually do this right. Okay, I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to start. And I want to use a pen. I don't want to use a pencil on this. So I'm going to come in here and just start. And I don't want that moving. Hang on a second here. Everybody always has access to tape, so just make sure that both sheets are taped together so you don't have any movement. Create a little tab so you can pull that tape off. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm just make sure I got there. Oh, okay. So now both pieces are actually unison, and they're not going to move. Typically you want to have them taped down, but usually we're only doing this with one image instead of two. So this is the first time that I'm showing you how to do stuff so you can actually have multiples. And I'm doing the Einstein because I'll be doing him later with one of the teachers. Okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start. And I got to press pretty hard to make sure I get it. And again, we want as much information as possible. And you'll see me use a variety of lines on here too, instead of just using straight lines. Straight lines are very visible. If you use rotating lines or crooked lines, what winds up happening is you wind up kind of blends in a little better. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go ahead and press. Like I said, you have to press pretty hard, because I'm going through two sheets of paper and two sheets of graphite paper or carbon paper. Carbon paper is very old school. Now eventually, also, one thing you're going to find out is that you're not going to have to put as many lines down, because the more familiar you get with this process, the more familiar you are with the subject, and more familiar you are with your working area. So you wind up doing less, or you wind up doing lighter lines. This is going to kind of answer itself. And I see a lot of other things in here I wouldn't normally see. So I'm going to put them down. This is kind of a grainy picture, so you just kind of have to work with it a little bit. And if you don't see it in the image, don't put it on the transfer. If you're transferring this stuff down, just simply do not put it in. Some things you see lighter, but they have to be put in, so it's like part of the nose. You wouldn't believe how I have a laptop set up right now in order to get this image, okay? I had to actually strap it down to my easel so it doesn't move. Okay, so how do we know we've got it? Well, we know we got it on the first one, but how do we know we got it on the second one? So I'm just going to be very careful. I'm going to lift this, I'm going to take this, and you can kind of see, well, so I'm getting it here. You can kind of see right here where it's at. So I am getting it, okay? So I just want to make sure it goes back to where it was. Since we got it taped here, it's not going to move. And I can continue. I can continue it comfortably because I know that it's transferring to both. And what this does, more than anything else, rather than tracing down an image, is it teaches you to see details that you normally wouldn't see. So say when we pull these off, if I missed anything, I'm going to notice it. Now some people, they pull off the transfer, and they don't really notice anything till they're working. So what happens is there's a way of making sure, which we will do that on this one here, to where that doesn't happen. And if it does, then you got to actually either reattach the subject to the canvas, or you have to learn how to draw. So it's drawing out of necessity rather than drawing out of pleasure. And I want you to be able to accomplish some really cool things with this. So this is kind of a step we have to go through in order to get to a painting element. Because you can't paint unless you can transfer things down accurately. You can't paint unless you can see. Okay. See a little bit there. Okay, and since I trust my process, I'm also trusting the idea that what I put down is going through both sheets, because I already know the pressure I have to push in order to get it in there. And I'm going to leave out some of that. Not sure how this actually goes, but it looks to me like it comes this way and then it might go down. So I'm not sure about that, but I'm just not even going to worry about it, because the idea of this picture is not about trying to get everything in there as a artistic expression, but more as a way of making sure that we're seeing what we're seeing, we're learning how to do this. So if I can see the very edge of his hair, I'm going to put it in. Yamil, how you doing? Yamili?
I'm good, how are you?
Really good. And unfortunately, you're not seeing my smiling face this morning. I'm actually showing a transfer process where you can transfer multiples down. So in case you want to do a second one, so you're going to tape your transfer down like normal, and then you're going to lay out 4 sheets of transfer paper, 2 on a sheet underneath and 2 on the top sheet, and you're just going to transfer down 1, but in essence you're actually transferring down 2. So I use this method when I'm experimenting and I want to try new things, but I want to try it on the same image. And this is also if you don't have access to a printer or a copier or anything else like that. This is another way of getting images down. And this actually is very, very old school. This predates computers. So say your power went out in your house and you can't actually access your computer, you have no backup system, and now all of a sudden you want to draw something. Guess what? Now you can actually draw it, you can get it onto what you want to do. You don't have to rely on anybody to do it. So that's what this is all about today. And I'm going to be doing a couple of them. Raina, how you doing? So this transfer process is kind of important because there's no excuses after this. So you can't come up with anything that, well, I can't do it. I didn't have access to a printer. I can't do this. Well, here you go. And 90% of the images you're getting from me anyway. So that makes it kind of easy. And so I want you to get used to trying alternative methods of doing things, thinking out of the box, and attempting to make sure that what you get down is what you see. Now we'll test out this to see how much I was able to get down. And you notice I'm also not putting straight lines on my image. And I'll hold this up. There's no straight lines when I'm doing that. You can kind of see my pin marks on there. And the reason why you don't want to do straight lines, because straight lines, there's no straight lines in nature. So what I'm doing here is I'm using rotating line or squiggly lines to kind of represent everything, because they seem to hide a lot better when you're transferring things down or you get into the drawing portion of the image. It makes it a little bit easier to not be so tied up and, oh my God, there's still lines on there, I gotta hide the lines. Well, no, you don't have to hide the lines. That's part of the drawing process. And if you don't like the lines, then you're gonna have to really learn how to see the image to do this. So does anybody have any questions at this point? No? Okay, I'll just keep going. And also another thing, I want to be able to see your work. So like I said before, there's no more books, there's no more tests, there's no more quizzes, there's just work. This is where we find out how much we've learned and how much we've absorbed and what we've retained. And it also gives us the ability to say where I need to grow. And there's no such thing as a bad mistake. The only mistake I know that's bad is one that's not even attempted. So if you tell me you can't do something, and I say, okay, show me, and you show me nothing, then you don't have a right to say that. You only have a right, then it's just your own thing. It's like, no. Now, I'm doing this with just one transfer and also one copy. Now, I got a frog set up where I'm going to do 3 copies using the same transfer. And I'm going to come in here, I'm going to step back. I can kind of see the back of his hair here. I can kind of see this. And you start seeing different things. Now, I've done these so many times that I have to apologize that I'm starting to see more and more, and I'm getting more and more tied up with detail rather than the object of the game. And so even I get tied up with that kind of stuff. And I mean, I could get to the point where I'm working on these and I want to make sure every value is absolutely perfectly correct. And I don't necessarily want to make sure they're absolutely perfectly correct, because if they're perfectly correct, then you got a piece of plastic, and that's not at all what the expression of art is about. It's about interpreting the world through your eyes and giving some people something to look at. When they look at it, they're going, oh wow, that's really cool. How did you do that? That's what art does. It makes you think. It's not there to make you say, I can't do it. Because anybody can do this. All of you can do this. In fact, I know all of you can do it because I've seen most of you do this. This is the easiest process on the face of the planet to get an image down. Okay, so I think I got everything. Now, how do I know I have everything? Well, one, the way to test this out, I don't want to take anything away from this one. So I'm just going to fold this back. I'm going to pull off my graphite paper. Now, I should have pretty much them all there, but I'm not sure. So even at this point, I'm not sure of what I got. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this. This is an old animator's trick of making sure they flip it back and forth. I'm looking here, I'm looking at the nose, and I want to see if my lines match where I've drawn. See, I missed this part of the eye. So I can see that through there. So even I missed some things on this. And remember, if you're doing it to this one, you're actually doing it to this one. And you should get an exact copy. So I'm going to come up here. Now the first one will be dark. So, you just have to understand that. But you got to remember, what is the purpose of this exercise? It's not about making a perfect image. It's about just gaining a perspective on how to draw, or a perspective on how to get your image down so you can actually draw or paint. I use the same process when I paint. All those paintings you see of mine, those are done exactly the same way. Okay, now I want to check it out. I do this. I've got it in there now. I'm going to go this way. I'm looking at this eye here, and it's, I don't know if you can see that, but if I do this back and forth really fast, I can see if I missed anything. And of course I did. So every time you don't want to pull you don't want to pull this off immediately, get it done, because you may have missed a few things. Okay, so I'm going to move actually this way here, because I want to get some more information here off the hair. And the reason why I chose Einstein over everybody else is because he has a very expressive face, even as a young man. This was when he was about 30 years old. So he was always, he was one of those guys who always had a very expressive face, and people really loved him. He was actually just one of those guys that you wanted to be around. Okay. So, and I like the idea that this has gone here. It follows along with everything else. I can do it. Now I'm just going to look. And of course, I've got this schmutz here, but that you can't avoid that unless you go back and erase it. We might just erase it just to clean up the image. But now, okay, now, what do I have underneath? Should I have an exact replica underneath? Now it's also going to be a little lighter, and I put a tab here so that it's going to be easy for me to pull back. Okay, now the minute I pull this one back, I should have an exact replica. Okay, so we're going to pull these out. I'm not going to show you yet. And there you go. So what you did here replicates underneath. So this is the first copy method that they really invented, because in fact before you had printers, you had carbon paper. You'd put 2 pieces of paper in, you put it in your typewriter, you type things out, and it would copy to the next one, so you could do multiple copies. So the copy machines, carbon paper, all these things, the presses were all predated all this kind of stuff. So what I want you guys to understand is that when I'm doing this process here is for making multiples. So if I'm having to do 2 drawings at the same time, instead of sitting here drawing each one every time, I can do this, and it makes it a lot easier to do. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, no? Any questions? Yes, no, maybe? Anybody? Nobody cares? Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to go on and do the frog. I'm going to go do the frog so you can see that I'm going to do 3 copies instead of 2. So that process is for that. Now, through the magic of TV, I already got it set up. So hold on. And for the crew here, which I'm recording this for, this is one more process in a list of many that you can use to make multiple images. So if you need to experiment, you need to test things out, this is an easy way of doing it, especially if you can't go down and get copies made. Okay, anyway, till next time.